What is up, YouTube? All right, I was just looking online. I always check MMA news after I get home from the gym, and I was looking at the current news of UFC 196, and I noticed that Cain Velasquez pulled out. I guess he's issuing an apology to Fabricio Verdum for having to pull out of the fight. So they gave a replacement for Verdum, and they put Stipe Miocic. I'm probably not saying that right, but he was supposed to step in and fight Verdum at UFC 196. And then, like a day after they released that, Verdun comes out with this news that he's pulling out, of the card. It says he had a back injury, hasn't been able to throw leg kicks, and a few other things. And so he's pulling out of the fight now. So basically, now, I don't know where that leaves UFC 196 as far as, you know, what they're going to do. My suggestion for this is simple. I say give it to Overeem. Give Overeem Steve Miocic for the interim belt, and then you can do a title joint unification fight later on down the line. And the reason I said that is because I was looking at everybody's record. Of course, Junior Dos Santos was the first person that jumped in mind when I was looking at people's records. But then I realized I was like, well, he just lost to Overeem. And I was like, well, Overeem's been actually doing pretty good lately. He's managed to put together a couple wins. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Beat a former title holder in Junior Dos Santos. So I was like, well, that seems like a fair matchup to me. Of course, Junior Dos Santos was my first thought because he beat Kane. But coming off of a loss, you can't really throw. You can throw him in the main event, but it just wouldn't seem right to give him a interim belt considering he's already he's coming off a loss. He already has a win over Stipe Miocic, however you say his name. So that kind of had me leaning towards him, but still coming off a loss. It was like, it's probably not the proper time for him. So Stipe Miocic's got a couple wins in a row. Overeem's got a couple wins in a row. So I say let's for the main UFC 196 main event, let's throw Overeem in there and let's do an interim belt. And then later on down the road, you can do title unification match or whatever. You can either have the person with the interim belt stand by while Cain Velasquez were doing fight, because he's probably gonna want to break after this fight, or you can, I don't know, do a title elimination match. You can have the interim champion face off against the champion, and Cain Velasquez can face the winner of that, to get his rematch, whatever you want to do. Because who knows how long. Kane's been known to go out on injuries for a year at a time. So, and he's had losses before where he had to be out for some time. So that's my suggestion. Give it to Dos Santos. I think Barnett offered to step in and fight, but I'm pretty sure Josh Barnett is coming off a loss too. Oh no, he's not coming off a loss. He had one win after his loss, but he lost to who did he lose to? He lost to Travis Brown, and then he beat Roy Nelson. Which beating Roy Nelson, I don't think that justifies a title fight, especially Roy Nelson's coming off of 2 losses before he lost to Barnett. So beating Barnett's not enough to get you beating Roy Nelson's not enough to get you a title shot. So in my opinion, Overeem's my man that I got picked. Let's throw Overeem in there. Let's do an interim belt and let's get this party started for the UFC 196 event, because right now we don't have anybody. Everybody's pulled out with injuries, so let's get that fight going. So hopefully this that's what Dana White and the Fertitta brothers and whatever I forget the matchmaker's name, whatever his name is, decides to do that as opposed to just scrapping the whole fight. Because every now and then the UFC will do a whole, like when this kind of stuff happens, they'll just drop the main event and they'll make the co-main event is now the main event. Which is kind of, you go, well, I'm not really getting a fight back. I'm just getting the co-main event as the main event now, which would turn the. I actually don't think that'd be good for Rumble Johnson to turn the co-main event into a main event, because that means they'd be fighting 5 rounds then. So I don't think that's, would be in Rumble Johnson's favor to bump it up to a 5-round match, especially with the way that Bader's going to try to fight him. So hopefully that's what happens with the fight, and they put him in there. And I think that'd be a very intriguing fight for the fans. Based off Overeem's style of fighting and Steve Miocic, you finally have somebody who's not going to be afraid to stand up with Overeem by any stretch of the imagination. And Overeem's a very technical, solid striker. He coming from a kickboxing background. Well, not really coming from a kickboxing background, but he had a successful kickboxing career in K1. So he had really, really good striking and really technical striking. And Steve Maoki, I hadn't seen a lot of his fights, but the fights I've seen, he has looked solid on his feet. I mean, he has just looked like a destroyer of men, standing up. So I think that would be a really good matchup stand up wise for the fight fans. You get a stand up war. I don't think either one of them would try to take the other one down, but you never know. The two heavyweights getting that, and one of them gets caught and realizes like, hey, maybe this isn't gonna go my way standing up, then start shooting takedowns. But neither one of them is easy to take down, and I don't think either one of them has good enough wrestling to get the other one down, which is something I always look for when you're fighting. When you got two heavyweights fighting, sometimes you have a guy who you have two really good strikers, but one of them has really really bad wrestling defense, and then the other one has decent okay wrestling. So the striking starts not going one way or another, and the guy who has the decent wrestler takes the other one down, and now you got a subpar grappling match because of two strikers. But in this case, both big, strong, athletic guys. I don't think either one has good enough wrestling to take the other one down. So they're not going to have a choice but to stand with each other, which means it's going to be a really, really good fight for the fans. And Overeem striking, it looks like it's gotten a lot better because he went on a little bit of a losing streak where he kept getting knocked out by guys, for really just bad striking. Like the Antonio Silva fight was just really, really just dumb. Like the way he fought that fight. He fought with his hands down. He was, taunting Bigfoot Silva. And he's not, let me explain something about Overeem. If he does fight Miyoki, Steve, however you say his name, he's got a glass chin and a glass head. But not just a glass chin. He's not a real legit heavyweight. And I don't say that because he doesn't weigh enough. Well, yeah, he weighs enough. But at the beginning of his career, he was fighting light heavyweight. He was fighting guys that weren't. I think at one point he fought Chuck Liddell before he turned heavyweight. This isn't that's the smaller McGregor, but a little nog. But see, he fought Shogun. He fought Vitor before Vitor. Back when Vitor was like a light heavyweight. He fought Chuck Liddell. He's got like a good, decent light heavyweight's chin. He can take a decent punch at light heavyweight. But he fights at heavyweight now. But he's got a light heavyweight chin. Well, what that equates to is basically a glass chin in heavyweight. Because you're not a real. He's not a real heavyweight. He's packed a lot of muscle onto his frame to make himself, a heavyweight, and he did all of it. Some of it legitimately, and some of it illegitimately. So he can't take very hard punches to the head or to the chin, but he did a really good job of protecting his chin early on. Like he always had his hands up high. He always kept his chin really protected. He never really, let his defense go away. He didn't throw a lot of punches and bunches, but he threw enough to hurt people. But he always kept his hands close to his. He always was protected. When he was throwing, he always kept himself protected. And the problem then he started having down the road, he started getting cocky, started getting arrogant, started putting his hands down low, and trying to be more offensive and just count on head movement. But, the Bigfoot Silva didn't really hit him with a clean punch. The first punch that rocked him was in the head. It's not like he caught his chin, he just hit him, and he had his hands, he put his hands kind of up, but he just got hit on the head, and that was enough to, stumble him around. So, if he does fight, Steve Maoki, he better be fighting a darn smart fight like he has been doing. But for the last couple fights, he's been fighting really smart, really conservative, back to keeping his hands up high, keeping his chin protected, and so on and so on. So I hope that's my vote for the main event, for UFC 196. So hopefully that's what happens. But as time tells, we'll see, you guys. They might just scrap the whole thing and leave us waiting. So